Hi friends, and welcome back to the channel. I am Marie of Stitches and Diamonds, and I'm super excited to make this tutorial for Historical Sampler Company. Today I am going to show you how to finish this month's Cotton and Twine subscription box project into a simple, elegant pillow, all sewn by hand, no sewing machine required. If you find this tutorial helpful at all, remember to like and subscribe. Here's what I used in this tutorial. The fully stitched piece, backing fabric that complements the stitching, and rickrack trim. This is all included in your subscription box. Then we will need lightweight fusible interfacing. I am using Pellon P44F here, as recommended by the one and only Vonna Pfeiffer of the Twisted Stitcher. Fabric scissors, rotary cutter, and small snips or embroidery scissors, quilting ruler, sharp sewing needle, and a sewing thread. I use Superior threads by the bottom line. It's thin, almost invisible, but very sturdy. Pins and magic clips to help us hold everything in place during the hand sewing. Thimbles to protect our fingers. Pencil, chopstick for stuffing the pillow and sharpening the corners, and polyfill stuffing. I will also be using an iron and ironing board off camera. Let's start finishing. We will start by trimming the stitched piece, leaving a margin of about 3/4 of an inch all around the stitching. Because there is no outer border as such, you need to find the outermost stitch on each side and measure 3/4 of an inch from there. This gives you enough room for seams and a nice border. I am using a pencil to mark directly on the fabric. This is because the edges are going to be sewn inside the pillow. The visible margin from the outside of the pillow will only be around 1/4 of an inch and therefore pencil free. Quilting ruler is the best tool to use here, as it allows you to see what's beneath it, and the lines on the ruler allow you to align it symmetrically against the design and previously drawn lines. I like to draw these lines as a rough sketch and then still draw the threads of linen or cut along a straight line on Aida. This helps me to achieve an even piece with straight lines.
What I can actually teach you is the drawn thread technique. So we know over here this was our 3/4 inch. So I'm just going to find a thread that runs vertically, and I'm going to start drawing the thread out, and by helping the fabric a little like this, I'm drawing more and more of the thread out of the fabric, and this will help me be very precise when I cut the line. This is very helpful for linen. With Aida, it's really easy to see the lines. With linen, it can sometimes get a little bit tricky. You can see that my lines went a little bit off. So this, we can be very certain that this is completely on the weave and the correct margin all the way around.
If you'd like to draw the threads as well, finish drawing thread at this point on the 2 remaining sides. Once done, cut out a piece of interfacing, roughly 11 by 7 inches if you are stitching on the provided 16 or 32 count. Precise cutting will come later on. Cut 2 pieces. You will need interfacing for the backing fabric too. I have then used the interfacing as a rough guide for cutting out my backing fabric piece. Before we cut the final pieces for sewing, I will iron on the interfacing. I've done it off camera, but it's not difficult at all, I promise. The only tricky part is to sandwich the correct sides together. You want to join the wrong side of the stitching with the glue side of the interfacing and the wrong or faded side of the backing fabric with the glue side of the interfacing. It's really easy to tell which side of the interfacing has got the glue on. Simply run your fingers over both sides of the interfacing. One side will be smooth and one side will feel a little bit rough where you can feel the glue crystals. Before you iron these together, I personally like to iron the fabric alone first to get rid of any creases. I do that on the highest setting with steam when working with linen and cotton, but only half power when ironing Aida because of the polymix that's part of Aida that could burn and shrink your fabrics. Once your fabrics are wrinkle-free, they are ready for interfacing. I like to lower the temperature when working with interfacing as it can burn quite easily. Remember to iron on the smooth side of the interfacing. The rougher side has all the glue that will adhere to the piece of fabric you're ironing it on. You don't want that to touch your iron. I've learned that lesson the hard way. Now that the interfacing is ironed on both pieces, it's time to cut down to sewing size. Follow the drawn thread lines on the top piece to cut down to sewing margins, and then use the top piece as a template to cut any excess fabric off the backing piece. To help me hand stitch a straight line when piecing the two fabrics together, I like to mark a 1/4 inch seam line on the back of the stitched piece. I am using the quilting ruler again to make sure the lines are perpendicular to the design. This will help me tremendously when stitching around the seams and ensure a nice even finish. A little unevenness will be hidden away by the rickrack trim on the outside, so don't overthink it too much. But a general guideline will help us with straight line stitching, as you will see in just a little minute. Place your stitched piece and your backing piece right sides together, aligning all edges. Pin securely in multiple places. The fabric likes to pucker and move a little bit when stitched by hand, so you want to secure it in place as tightly as possible. You can use pins or magic clips or a combination of both as I do. Just be careful of the sharp ends of the pins. Now, with your sharp sewing needle and sewing thread, use backstitch to sew around all 4 edges. My sewing thread is very fine, so I like to make 2 knots at the eye of the needle to prevent constant rethreading. This will only work with a very fine thread, as the knots are so tiny that they will go through the fabric without any issue when sewing. To secure the thread in the fabric, make a larger knot to make sure it doesn't slip through. I usually do 5 or 6 turns of a quilter's knot. Start stitching in one corner, a little away from where the lines meet. To reinforce the corners, I like to go some 3 to 4 stitches further along the corner line and stitch the corner over 2 or 3 times. This is to make the corners very strong, as we will be putting a lot of pressure on these seams when turning the corners. When using a sharp sewing needle, it can be quite harsh on your fingers. I can highly recommend these silicone thimbles. I've linked all the products I'm using here in the description below. Once you've finished the corner, just continue backstitching along the penciled stitch line. If it's more comfortable for your hands, change the position of the stitching. Sometimes it's easier to stitch to the side rather than from bottom to top. Once again, when I get to the corner, I will stitch 3 to 4 stitches further along the corner line to reinforce them and stitch over the corner stitches 2 to 3 times over. When hand stitching, it's good to turn over your work frequently and check if your pieces are still holding in place. If they've started moving a little, readjust the pins or clips and try to smoothen it out to prevent any puckering as much as possible. If you run out of thread while stitching along the seam line, just run the thread 2 to 3 times through your last stitch and tighten. This will create a knot. You can repeat this step twice to make sure the thread will not unravel. Then start a new thread and continue stitching. Take your time when backstitching around the pillow. Short, tight stitches will make for a sturdy seam that lasts for years to come and will prevent any wavy seams visible from the outside of the pillow. Leave a gap of about 2 to 3 inches along the bottom edge for turning and stuffing. End the thread exactly the same way. Run 2 to 3 times through the loop of your last stitch and tighten. Repeat if needed. Once done, clip the corners carefully to reduce the bulk. Make sure that you under no circumstance cut into your existing stitches, as that would make your stitches unravel and you'd have to restitch the seam. Now it's time to turn the pillow. Bring the pillow through the gap you've left unstitched while being as gentle as possible so that your thread holding the seams doesn't snap. Use a chopstick or corner turning tool if you have it to gently poke out the corners until they're nice and crisp. Try to make the corners as sharp as possible, but be careful not to snap the stitches. Once you've finished the corners, it's time for an amazing trick I've learned from Vana the Twisted Stitcher. I highly recommend her YouTube tutorials. Use the chopstick tool to run along the seam edges from the inside. This will straighten the seams and make for a lovely even finish. It's almost time to start stuffing the pillow. Before we do, I like to give it one last iron to press the straight seams and corners. The pillow is all ironed, let's stuff it. Take your polyfill fiber or wool roving and first of all, separate it as much as possible to make it gain as much volume as possible. We will stuff it tightly into the pillow and reduce the volume again, but by not skipping this step, you will not see any bulky chunks in your pillow or separation of balls of stuffing over time. The pillow will be stuffed nicely and evenly when you take time to loft the filling and then rejoin it during stuffing. To stuff the pillow, try and stuff the corners first and then the rest of the pillow. Always stuff it more than you think. Polyfiber looks deceptively voluminous, especially after you've lofted it, but if you want tightly stuffed pillows, you need to stuff and condense it inside with as much filling as possible. Once you're happy with how your pillow is stuffed, it's time to stitch the opening. I just use a simple ladder stitch, but don't worry too much about the stitches being a bit visible. We will cover this with a rickrack trim anyways. I am using the same techniques to start and finish the thread as during the backstitching of this pillow. And now it's time for a bit of fun. Let's attach the trim. Lay one end of your rickrack trim on the seam we've just closed. This should be on the bottom of the pillow so that any unevenness is not visible when the pillow is displayed. Catch the end of the trim with a first stitch and then sew it along the seam of the pillow. To attach it, I use a zigzag hand stitch following the waves of the rickrack. That's one tiny stitch going into the front fabric of the pillow and one tiny stitch stitched into the backing fabric. I am just using the white DMC thread from the project kit here and my tapestry needle. I am using needle size 28, which is a little sharp, so it can pierce through the backing fabric without any issue. Repeat all the way around. I don't have any special tricks for the corners other than take extra care when attaching the trim around the corner and make sure that it covers the corner seam, that it doesn't slip off. I am not using any special stitches in the corners, still catching the front and the backing fabric with a small stitch. I am just making sure that I am happy with the position of the trim in that corner before I catch it with my stitches. Once you've gone all the way around, cut the trim exactly where it meets the beginning with only maybe 1 or 2 millimeters extra. Secure the trim in place and sew the two ends together with a few simple stitches. This is to prevent any unraveling fibers from the rickrack. We're almost done. To give your pillow a finished look, give it a gentle steam press. Be sure to avoid squashing the pillow. It's best to press from the back side of the pillow to avoid squashing any stitches on the front. And now it's finally time to admire your beautiful work. Straight seams, neat corners, and a lovely trim, all done by hand. I hope you found this tutorial helpful. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and let us know in the comments what kind of finishing you'd like to see next. Until then, happy stitching!